But what no one is really talking about is that if you don't have a process that already works, introducing AI is not the magic bullet that will say, you had a hard time doing lead generation before, but now if you use our AI agent, we'll figure out all the lead generations.
Hey, greetings, everybody. This is Across the Funnel, Adil, your co-host, and we are super interested to, talking about how AI is impacted in the retail side of things, like e-commerce. I know that for some time, an AI actually made a big boom about 16, 18 months ago when it came with Anthropic, their models and all, and a lot of these SaaS, I would say, e-commerce SaaS or SaaS in retailers. That's kind of taken a little bit of pause, and they're trying to make sure that how AI can be so efficient when it comes to hunting for products, when it comes to recommendation for the products, when it comes to discovering these products for retailers. And it's a more than $100 billion industry, and that's why we were trying to explore more with the chief growth officer and co-founder at Prefixbox. Paige, thank you very much for taking the time.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and discuss all this. It's been, as you mentioned, a very eventful time in e-commerce, like not even in the last 12, 18 months, but really since COVID, because that shook everything up back in 2020 with all the supply chains. Everyone was rushing to move online. And then it was a big boom in technology. Then the market kind of restabilized itself, which was not at the level that people thought will be growing forever. So that took a little bit of a hit. And now you're right, with AI, it's really revolutionized what's possible, what teams are trying to achieve. And it feels like every week or every second week, there's some new news. I don't know how closely you follow it, but in the fall, the big wave was that you would be able to check out on ChatGPT. They integrated with Shopify and Etsy. Now it turned out that that's not exactly the case, what they were saying. So it's every day is something new. So it's a really eventful and exciting time to be in the space.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, like yourself, you've been a growth leader for more than a decade now, and you're optimizing not just sales and all these marketing operations, and then working across the sustainability side of things. How do you see this? I know that you're more towards like the retail side of things, like e-commerce. But as a growth leader, how do you see this? Is this like something that makes you excited? The way AI is moving really, really fast, optimizing the bandwidth. Every leader is trying to do more with less, introducing new technologies or building internal agents and all of that. So how do you see this in a broader spectrum as a growth leader?
It makes me excited, and it also makes me really tired because there's some new tool every day. There's this new sales motion, and if you use this agent, it's going to revolutionize your whole sales process and change everything. And I think people, to some extent, are overestimating what's possible because I think a lot of the conversations around using AI in the sales is like, you can do it at scale and leads will just come pouring in. But what no one is really talking about is that if you don't have a process that already works, introducing AI is not the magic bullet that will say, you had a hard time doing lead generation before, but now if you use our AI agent, we'll figure out all the lead generation. So it basically will accelerate and optimize what you're already doing. But if what you're already doing isn't exactly working, I mean, it'll show you that faster because it's going to do that same
Mm,
thing at a higher volume. So you
mm.
can find the pattern much easier. So I think still you really have to focus and make sure that you have the fundamentals right on your outreach, your messaging, positioning, ICP, all of that. And then once you have this model that's working, then it makes sense to introduce AI in specific ways when you identify what it is you're trying to achieve. Because there's not, one go like be all
One
end
size
all
fits all,
AI
yeah.
tool.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, I want to optimize lead generation, or I want to go through the pipeline faster. So improve pipeline velocity, or reduce the time to follow up with prospects or something like that. So you really need to know what it is you're trying to do. And I think now, I don't know how you see it or what you hear, but now I kind of feel like they're selling a lot of different tools as the magic bullet. But still, at the end of the day, you need a strategy that works before you can bring in other things to optimize it.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely. We hear this a lot as well because you got to nail it first to scale it, and you got to know your workflow that's working. At least it's good worth an experiment to introduce AI, and then introducing AI in a very specific organization like functions, not just like a broader function. Because AI, if you
yeah.
see it as like you talk about agentic workflows, on a wide array, they don't work. Like you got to make sure that you're, as you mentioned, that you only focus on lead generation, only focus on the follow-up funnel, you only focus on the pipeline generation. So it is always good to have a specialized capabilities and fine tuning it with iteration and experimentation, what works, what not. And it becomes equally critical to, do that scale if you don't know how it's going to
Mhm.
work. So that's why a lot of
Yeah.
these, especially these companies that have been heavily like funded, like millions of dollars, and they have the money to fail and experiment. They are struggling. They are struggling, and now 2 3 years down, because a lot of them they came onto my podcast, and these founders 2 3 years down now, you talk about like companies that got funded like 2023, 2024. They are not hitting the growth numbers that
Yeah.
their board demands and all these investors demand. So they're struggling to raise their next round because the spend has been so much because they were trying to ride the wave of AI bad enough when the AI was not there, and they didn't know it because they, as I said, they thought that it has some magic wand and it's gonna automate everything, and
Yeah.
it actually broke. And then the customer success side of things. When I started this podcast, it was purely a post-sales GTM, like customer success,
Mhm.
revenue, support, and all these leaders came up and said, like, "Hey, we are investing back into our customer base, into their success, and that's how we're tracking success and all of that." So the success part has also been a growing pain in the recent times, especially here in the Valley, because a lot of these companies are now not focused on acquiring more customers, but retaining their install base and investing into
Yeah.
success part, building multi-product, or maybe multi. A lot of these companies are building agents to cover adjacent use cases to make their products sticky enough. Because as you mentioned, there's so
Mhm.
much of noise. If you talk about
Yeah.
SMB to mid-market category, every GTM team, if I just talk about, let's say, account management, they have like 15 to 20 tools on their disposal that they can try, and they look around on the internet and they see like, hey, this tool we might try, this tool we might evaluate.
Right.
This is cutting up the price. This is how we can optimize our budget. So there's so much internally going on
It's totally
with this
overwhelming
GTM.
also. Like
Yes.
how can you make these decisions and then you feel like, okay, well, I tried one and didn't work. Let me try the other one because it was the tool. But I think a lot of the time it's the underlying thing. It's not necessarily the tool because they, all have their own speciality. But if you still don't know what it
Mhm.
is you're trying to do, you can try all 15 tools and still end up at the same place where you started. And I think what you mentioned, like also the startup scene changed a lot since 2020, not just
Mhm.
COVID. Like you
Mhm.
were getting huge tickets back in
Yeah.
21, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Okay, grow at all costs. And there was not really a focus on efficiency. So, okay, that's
Mhm.
cool. You increased the revenue 4 million, but nobody was asking how much did you spend to increase the revenue 4 million? And that was 6, 8, 10. So nobody was checking on that. And now I think all the investors and even founders themselves also are more cognizant on this efficiency metric. So I'm spending this,
Mhm.
what am I getting back? Not just growth at all
The ROI
costs.
impact, yeah, the ROI impact to it, and how it's just hitting the bottom line, because that's the biggest talk of the town, to be very honest, across all the GTM tooling. Because when I talk about the post sales, when I talk about marketing, when I talk about revenue, when I talk about customer success, every business is trying to optimize their tool base and tech stack and see how they can
Mhm.
find the better ROI in a longer term view. Because acquiring customer is now start like costing 3 4x more, because again,
Yeah.
the noise and competition and all. Perfect. I love the way this conversation started like
Yeah, yeah,
spontaneously
exactly.
on our
We're on the same page.
own internal dialogue that we've been having, because I've been working on the growth for Hyperengage. We're also a B2B SaaS product, and now we'll talk about it more. So now talking about Prefixbox, and I know this category. I know that you're on the forum, one of the first movers, hunting, discovering, recommendation for any retailer for any
Mhm.
product. I'm talking about retailers with 10, 15, 20,000 products, just talking about the industry here in North America. How do you see this shaping in? And could you tell us a little bit more about Prefix and it has done in the recent times when it come to automation, AI, leveraging
Mhm.
generative AI to the fullest potential and at scale?
Yeah, so Prefixbox is an AI-powered product discovery solution for e-commerce retailers so that shoppers can find what it is that they're looking for when they're looking for it. because if you can't find it, then you can't buy it. So the retailers don't make money. So this space also has changed a lot. And I think really in the last year and a half is when we saw a lot with ChatGPT, not just because of ChatGPT and this checkout flow and whatever the buzz was, but what actually is possible in terms of understanding language from a computer, all of that technology, these large language models that ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity are leveraging, that went forward a lot. And that's an underlying key component in search, because at the end of the day, search, even though you're not searching in a long sentence like when you interact with ChatGPT, it's about understanding the intent behind a keyword so that you can surface the right products for that. That being said, search used to be, I mean, people were kind of trained with Google, right? You would distill your thought into the fewest keywords possible to find hopefully the most relevant information. And now we're swinging back with ChatGPT and Claude, where people are asking questions, sentences, and people are starting to be retrained in that way of like actually conversing with the machine. And that's being reflected in the way that people search on e-commerce sites. So this is a long way around, but a lot of search engines aren't built to process full length queries or to extract them from a sentence to actually get what the meaning is. So now search has moved forward a lot because of what is possible that with these large language models. And the way that e-commerce is changing is everything is becoming more conversational. So not just supporting conversational queries in a search box, but also having this agentic experience powered by AI, like a mini chat GPT agent for your store. People got really burned because, there was the chatbot hype in, I don't know, 2020 or whenever that was. And that was like the next big thing, but that was really just decision trees. Like if someone asks this, then say this, but it wasn't intelligent. You couldn't converse with it. So people kind of got burned by that, but now we're back in this agentic wave. So we don't want to say the word chat or chatbot because that has that negative, stupid connotation to it of how they used to be. So now we see that everything in e-commerce is going in this agentic way. So where you would have an agent on your site that knows all your products. It can work for product discovery. It can work for advice. It can work for support, etc. It's like having an in-store shop associate on the website. And so this is what retailers are interested in. And it's now kind of also a question on how do you blend that traditional search experience where you execute a query, you see, the grid of 3 or 4 products by how many rows, 8 rows, with this chat UI. And so how do these start to work together? So it wouldn't just be a static search result page and then an agent in the corner, but can there be a walkthrough between the two where it's a more unified user experience and customer experience? So that's kind of where we are now. And there's not a clearly defined, like, this is the new UI going forward, but everyone's talking about it and thinking about how can we start leveraging this agentic experience, be more conversational. So that's the main, I think, implication of AI from the retailer to the customer to provide almost this chat GPT like shopping experience or product discovery experience on your own website, in addition to surfacing products on ChatGPT, because obviously you want people to be able to find you across different channels.
Love it. I love the unification part that you mentioned because a lot of these platforms that are, I would relate this more towards like marketplaces. What they're trying to do when they build agents, they just give the chat interface and people communicate, they get their answer for that particular instant. But again, they cannot record it, they cannot call it back, they cannot replicate it. It's not unified. So it's equally important to have a unified sort of an experience instead of just a chat interface, but it is essentially easy to build, but it's not the correct way to have the end course of action, which is of course finding the right product and helping them evaluate a bunch of products so they can make the final decision. So now,
Yeah.
thinking about this, the UX part, like how challenging was that building it for retailers? Because I know that they have like sometimes the products change, verticals and the intent change. The way they evaluate products change, and it is directly tied to the way they make money, like retailers. The success is kind of shared. So how you're making it a win for them, not just by user interface, but also the education part, because a lot of these retailers are not like so tech savvy. So how did the customer education or the education piece that you guys, being a growth leader yourself, did you guys crack in the beginning? I know it's not that long ago, but how is that servicing and building the customer
It's
education?
also been a long journey because when we started Prefixbox 10 years ago, not many people knew what's the difference between a good search engine, a bad search engine? What are the best practices? Why would I need to change mine? So much of what we did on the marketing side in the beginning was this education, like these are the best practices. This is what your search engine should do. Here's how you can evaluate if you have a good one or a bad one. So we spent years really on educating that. And this is, I think, one of the most interesting changes is that now people know what it is, one, and with this agentic topic, it's really changed also how you sell, like as a business to other, as a tech business to other businesses, because it's a hot topic. People know what it is. They know more or less how they would want to use it. They know why they need it. So it's a totally different conversation as compared to the beginning of like, this is what a search engine is. And now they're like, okay, but can your agent do X, Y, and Z? And you can actually give this live demo and say, like, look, I set it up for your store. Let's interact with it. What do you want me to ask it? Let's see. And you can make it way more interactive. So it's totally changed how we've gone in that way. And I think now the conversations with them are more about specific use cases because every industry has a different one. Like fashion, for example, they would want to use agentic commerce or an agent in order to help shoppers find the right product size, because that means they can sell more and have less returns. For DIY, on the other hand, that's not relevant, but it's about like, I'm going to renovate my kitchen or I'm going to renovate my bathroom. And so having this more project based. And so it's more educating around for your industry. We see that these use cases are the most common. So like, is that how you would want to work it? How would you want to put it in through your user flow? Because we could direct to the agent from the search bar. We could direct from the search result page, and you can have these different push points from search to the agent. And it's going through that because now people more or less know about it, I think, because everyone is talking about AI and AI agents. So that need to educate them on why it's valuable is gone. And that's really nice that they just
Mhm.
get it.
But interesting. So now, I know that this we already touched a little bit on this retention part, like how you're increasing the lifetime value. I know that looking at your packaging and pricing, I know that adding more catalogs, like there's so many signals that you can surface your post system to identify, hey, this is an account going for expansion. There's a growth that we're signaling. Maybe we can do a cadence or business review, whatever. These are the accounts that are not so active based on just the interaction piece. On top of that, like I know that you guys are already might be tracking a lot of this and measuring success and health across accounts, especially for these bigger accounts. Let's say with lots of products, like I would say like
Mhm.
1,000 or more than 1,000 products. So how you're measuring success apart from like just recording interactions? There's some other qualitative data sources that you need to, as a post sales, you need to record and analyze. Maybe you can have AI, let's say conversations or meeting notes or
Mhm.
any notes that any feedback, any feature request, any problem that customers share during the meeting that lives in the CRM. So could you also walk us through a little bit about your tech stack and then how you're measuring success around these kind of triggers or signals that I'm able to identify? And then, of course, you can share more what more success metrics that matter.
Okay, I guess the best way to start answering this question is what we want to deliver to them is a conversion rate increase and a revenue increase. So everything that we do and we build and we sell is with that goal in mind that we're going to increase your conversion rate and revenue by, then you can have top line metrics like by improving user experience, increase search user rate, et cetera, et cetera. So the way that we package our products, we have different suites that they can buy. They're independent, but everyone starts with search. So we have the search suite, and that's usually where everyone starts. But then the space also has evolved, and people want product recommendations. So we have that. Our agent is another product suite as well. So these are all sold separately. And pretty much everyone, when they start with us, just buys search. And the search price is dependent on the number of search requests, which can be
Mhm.
correlated to their visit count. So if you have more visitors, you have more search requests. It goes like that usually. In terms of product size, we have retailers with like 2, 5, 10 million products in the catalog. So we don't charge by that. Unless it is a huge number, because we can support up to 50 million products. So if it's going to go that way, then our hosting costs are higher, then we have to have more costs. So the journey goes usually like we outreach with search. Now that's moving more into the agent because that's the hot topic. People understand it. So it's a land and expand model where we'll sell one product, which is search or now the agent, integrate that, get that delivering value on the conversion rate and revenue. Because once you do that, the rest of the conversation becomes quite easy because you can already build the trust. So you say, hey, we did this. These are the results you had throughout those conversations of onboarding the search, because actually it's a very complex product and it does take some time to get that up and running. You can understand what other challenges they're having than what you could understand in the beginning of the sales process. So, oh, they say like, I really want to do cross-selling. So then, oh, okay, great. We have product recommendation. So by landing with one product and working together through the integration, because usually we meet them every week in the integration phase, like, okay, this is a status, da, 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 whatever. Um, you get more of a feel for what their challenges are. So since we have a modular product, then you can add on more. Then of course they grow, like, because our goal is to help you increase your revenue and conversion rate. Ideally, then you will have more searches, more customers. They know the search is good, so they use search more. Da, da. Then at the end of the contract term, then we'll review what is the usage. And then, okay, look, you grew 15% last year, so we need to increase the contract 15%. So there's multiple different levers that we can pull in that direction. So mostly growth and selling an additional module on top of what we already have once we have more signals from them. And so everything in that is in the CRM. We use Pipedrive. We used HubSpot for a while, but then Pipedrive because it's mostly an outbound business
Yeah.
and B2B. And I feel that HubSpot has a lot of good marketing features and it's more tailored potentially to where there's a strong inbound motion. But Pipedrive is more simplified enterprise B2B CRM is what I felt in my experience. So that's the one that we're using there. I mean, then we have other email marketing tools, etc. But everything is stored then in Pipedrive.
Okay, so if I was to ask, like, what is the system of record for all the post sales team, be it success implementation? As you mentioned, there's an onboarding that has technical implications, so you need to make sure they're integrated. They all of the products and everything, whatever it's at. So from that point on, all the system record is mostly Pipedrive, the CRM, or do they have
Yep.
like any other
So
data
sales
pumping from?
and CSM are in the same. So everything is in Pipedrive
Okay,
because then we have the customer and we'll say, okay, this customer uses search, upsell opportunity is product recommendation. So at that point, then the CSM become after the contract is signed, the CSM takes over. And then they are
yeah.
responsible for the upsells. But then having that
Mhm.
all in one place because it all rolls.
Oh, they're responsible for the upsell.
Yeah.
That's more fair kind of a proposition, because a lot of these sales team that CS as in their analog, and a lot of these and B2B tech core, like they're like the commission got dispersed differently to the CSMs as to the sales when it comes to the instances when upsell happen, and most of the time they get reverted back to the sales exact for the upsell. So that's
Yeah.
great. So.
So they're also doing it. Something that we
Mm.
started doing more of in the last 6 months, but they're the ones who are in the constant communication with the customer. So they know what the needs
Absolutely.
are, they know what the opportunities are, they have the relationship. So sometimes sales can come in maybe for more difficult or complex implementations or negotiation or something
Mhm.
like that. But since they already
Yes.
are in the flow with the customer, then they take it over from
Mhm.
there. And so all of that rolls up ultimately under me. So it's just in one CRM where I can check it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And you earlier mentioned that this agentic, like the agent mode, is more as an additional license or additional
Mhm.
product. Is that additional? So perfect. So that's also an upsell if some retailers start as a search and they grow over time. And, of course, you see the signals and everything. So if they want to have an agentic model, they'll have to have an add-on. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
how,
exactly.
Okay, perfect. And what other success metrics that matter over the course of our, say, the first 2 years in terms of increasing the lifetime value, apart from increasing the revenue piece, as you mentioned, the conversion and all?
Mhm. That I think is more, so the conversion and revenue is more top line, and that's what we want. Underlying, we want to reduce the zero result rate. We want to increase the search usage. We want
Mhm.
to have them more active in the portal. So, for example, like we have a merchandising capability, which is built in. So make sure that they're engaging with that and maximizing their value out of the solution. A lot of them don't know, or teams change from when you initially onboard them. So the CSM also needs to make sure that they're using it. We don't sell per seat, so it's not something like you
Yeah,
haven't logged in or you need to buy more seats. So we don't have any
yeah,
parameter
yeah.
like that. So really, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the revenue and the conversion rate. That are these increasing? We have also we do a lot of experimentation because in search you can have a lot of different settings for how you're going to rank the relevance and what you emphasize and put weights on. So we run a lot of A/B tests for them. So let's say we released a new feature, then the customer success team will say, hey, we have this new, for example, we released an AI re-ranker, which re-ranks the results based on AI.
Mhm.
It's quite simple name. Um, but it also removes less relevant results. So we said, okay, let's run A/B tests for our customers that are interested. This was actually a paid add-on. But we said, okay, do you want to run these A/B tests? And I would say 85% said they wanted to experiment with it. And that had crazy results. Just from our AI search engine to the one with the re-ranker layer on top of
Okay.
it, that increased revenue
Mhm.
for them by 45%. So
Ooh,
we run a lot of
that's a big one.
experiments and then upsell in that way as well. So it's very data driven. So like,
Mm.
I mean, it's that way
Well,
also. You can't, how do you argue with it? Like, okay, this generated 45% more revenue. Would you
it's
like it
all,
or
yeah,
or
absolutely.
not?
There's so would you like to increase your revenue? Would you like more revenue, 45% of
Or
it?
no.
More or
So
no?
that's also for
Love
the
it.
CSM's responsibility, like, are they running these A/B tests? Are they introducing
Mhm,
the new modules? We also are
mhm,
constantly releasing features that are included, but it can be hard to get them turned on because everyone's really busy in the day to day. So it's like, okay, have you onboarded the new features to the customers? Did we run A/B tests for a new upsell opportunities? So all of these things
mm,
from not just the retailer side, what's a KPI, but also from the customer success side. Because
mhm.
again, all of those A/B tests, fine tunings, modules should then impact the customer revenue.
Ultimate revenue and conversion, and that's what matters. And
Yeah.
that's the best part about these platforms. Not just in retail, in any spectrum, is when the success is shared and it's so definitive. Like when it comes to hitting the revenue and conversions. And how do you see like your, let's say, net revenue retention, that piece in percentage, like out of 100 a month, how many of those get expanded, or like what's the churn looking like? Like I'm just trying to get my head
Our
around the
churn is pretty
stickiness
low
part.
because
Hmm.
search is a very sticky product because it's very hard to integrate, number one. And number two, AI-powered search engines learn from user behavior. So if you
Hmm.
were to change search providers, all of the data that you've gathered with us, for example, let's say they want to leave, all of the data that we have gathered and improved our algorithm with automatically,
Yeah,
all of
it
the
keeps getting better yeah, with every experience, it keeps getting better. Yeah,
yeah, so
that's
if
the
you
best part
leave,
about AI.
you just, go down. So I think
Hmm.
also going back to our AI topic, that's something that businesses are going to have to think about is the stickiness of your product. Because AI
Hmm.
agents, if it's just an AI agent for sales, for example, that's so easy to churn because we were talking about like 15, 17 different tools. You copy your prompt
Hmm.
from one into the other one. So once,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
that switching cost is
yeah.
so low. Whereas in search, and that's also why we want to integrate more of the search and agent experience, that becomes a much more sticky product.
Yeah, and stickiness is not so much to do as, and you'll definitely, agree with this. Is not about building more features or adjacent features or covering more use cases or more integrations. It's about fine tuning the AI the way you're doing with your customers the quickest, the fastest, and giving them the best outcomes when it
Yeah.
comes to AI. Like in
So
your
it
case,
hurts
it
if you
was
leave.
recommendation. Yeah. In your case, with recommendation, it was like, that is had a direct impact on the conversions and the numbers are from. So that's great. Perfect. So now, as a leader yourself, I know you guys are, how big is the team?
Around
Like
30.
30 people, all of them in Europe. Like, is this kind of diverse? Like in Europe, it's like the
Yeah,
different
all in Europe,
cultures
all in
too. So that's
Europe.
the best part about yours. So all in one country, you got some in Hungary, you got
Poland,
some in,
Hungary, Switzerland. I'm in Spain, so we're
oh,
around here.
oh, great, great. I'm also planning, to move, if in Europe, of course, in Spain, better weather,
Oh, really?
people. Yeah. And because, if you are to, learn another language, Spanish is the language that,
Super useful.
widely is spoken. Perfect. So how's tech there, like, in terms of, the core SaaS AI native products, startup ecosystem? How's that in Madrid?
In Spain, it's growing a lot. So I've been here for 5 years, and when I came, it was pretty low. There wasn't a lot going on. People weren't really talking about it
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of bureaucracy. So setting up your own business can be difficult. But the government is working on that. The ecosystem is starting to grow. There's a lot more people trying to start their business now.
Mhm.
So this idea of, I guess, it's not a traditional path, because when we were growing up, we
Mhm.
could go to school, go to college, get your degree, work for Microsoft, work your way up, one
Mhm.
of whatever the big tech companies, so that's the
Mhm.
traditional path. But now here people are starting to see, okay, this is actually a good
Mhm.
business, and Spain itself is well positioned because what you just mentioned, so many people speak Spanish because that's a huge part of the world. So
Mhm.
Madrid or whatever, anywhere in Spain is kind of the link. Like if you want to expand to Latin America or vice versa, you want to
Yeah.
service both the Tom and the European markets, which are huge markets, like independently. So it's well
Mhm.
positioned, and a lot of people are talking about it now. How can we facilitate more entrepreneurship? How can we get more in tech? Because this flip side of that, is the conversation about the US style, where it's very low regulation on AI. You can do whatever, where Europe has a
Mhm.
lot more, even if it's just GDPR and things like that. So I see a lot of conversations around how will that impact the AI or the tech scene for startups in Europe versus in the US. But I think, I mean, it will have an impact long term, but now everything here is
Mhm.
growing and people are getting more interested in it. So it's good to see that. And then a community is starting to build, but it's at the beginning.
Mhm. At the beginning. Okay, but it's just that the movement has started.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because I do know a little bit about Stockholm, Sweden, but the weather is like crazy. Like
Too
eight
dark
months a
over
year.
there.
Yeah, 8 months a year. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
yeah. I've been there a couple of times. Perfect. So now thinking about the culture piece, I know it's relatively easier for companies that speak the same language, that have some relatable culture, and a
Mhm.
smaller team, not that big of a team. There's a lot of these startups that come up and say like, we grow like 150 people last year, 100 people last year. So it is so hard to keep up with that DNA piece
Yeah.
and operating principle and keeping I strongly believe that if you make the right decision on the top line, the bottom line follow. No matter
Mhm.
who you are at the team, there's always going to be team members that are looking up to you. So you're always getting influenced
Mhm.
and being influenced. So how do you see this part, at your team? I know a lot of these people are from Europe, and how did you set that operating principles? And if I am to recognize the team at your team, so what is that what is that slogan I put you guys down as? Like, let's say a team of young folks, go-getters,
Yeah.
and people doing crazy things. Individually, like they're so like maybe gaming freaks and whatever. So how do you guys?
Like, what's the categorization? That's a good
Yeah.
question. We spend so much time on our branding and coming up with our vision and our mission, vision, and values. But I think at the end of the day, the things that were the most important to us is always learning. So I don't know how to do that is not an excuse. That's great. That means go figure it out and learn how to do it. And people who are always open for new challenges to figure something out. And I think that also ties into an ownership mindset where it's like, okay, I'm empowered. I should figure this out. Um, Honest people, because we want to build these long-term relationships with our customers. So it's not like a sales motion where you're going to say, yeah, you promise the world and then you give nothing, and that's not what we're in. So trying to be like honest, good people, and people that we like working with and having fun, like being a normal person, not being a jerk, not no politics, like show up
Mhm.
to work where it's a place that you like, work hard with other smart people, do something cool, have fun.
Yeah.
Like that's what I don't know, that's not my,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. On the flip side, if somebody if you're part of a job that you don't like, you're doing a disservice. You cannot be great at something that you're not passionate about. And I mean, if you have people I've hired and fired more than, I would say, 15 people in the past, I would say, 4 years. And
Mhm.
more than half of them, like more than 50% of them, I went on and said, hey, this is something, let's sit down, let's see like where you can find your passion. Of course, your visibility is not certain. You're not going to be visible. So this time you got to be uncertain and accept it, embrace it, and let's see like where you can place better. A lot of people come up and say, "Hey, I'm not good at content, and I might be good at something else." There's this one guy that started as a content writer, as some sort of a growth. Now he's managing agents. Like he's doing all the
Mhm.
technology integrations, Claude MCPs, connectors, all of that, and he's not been touching content or design
Yeah.
or anything like that. So it's always it's equally good to have and unfortunate to have leaders that navigate through those those maybe incapabilities or things that you're not like feel like doing and you
Hmm.
keep on doing because it's I mean you want to get paid or whatever. So there has to be some leader also like yourself. So it's always good to learn from people
Yeah.
because that's why people are always complicated. They always change. That's why hasn't replicated done
Yeah, that's
fully.
the thing,
It
right? Like,
still
is
the
it
did
easier to
every
manage
other
an AI
day.
agent or a person?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also there's another piece I was discussing with my co-founder, like, hey, the more people we're gonna have with these agents, the more complicated it's gonna get. And it's so hard to, it's not back in the years, not so long ago, like 2 years ago, it was more about like optimizing the band. I have a team, pretty smart people in Pakistan. It's a country right across China. More than 200 people are under the age of 32. So it's the youngest country with AI,
Hmm.
all this. So the pretty smart people. But again, when you get people from fraction of a cost, it becomes equally hard to let them go when things get complicated, especially with AI. Like you have agents, but you
Hmm.
have like five different people managing those agents, and I have the owners. They will across five different people, and it is so hard. So now it's more about having people that know how what AI is, like fundamentals, like how these LLMs
Yeah.
work, and all of this, and getting them to manage those agents and keep getting better on their capabilities of the agents.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be, I think, the big learning area now. Like, how can you upskill yourself to be AI literate so that you
Yeah.
can be more valuable in the workplace or do more or become more um, productive? But I think that's also kind of scary. Like, back to your very first question, like, what does that mean? We were talking about this today. Like, sales, I think, already has changed, and it's going to only change more if you think about outbound. Email inboxes are flooded. It's
Done.
all
Done.
automated. It's
Yeah.
like low quality messages that are irrelevant. The same is also now happening on LinkedIn. Like if you log in, you get all these random messages.
Yeah.
So if you accept someone you don't know, that means you're going to get put in a flow of 8, 15 messages. So then you have to spend
Yeah.
your brain power to sort through like, is this real or not? Because you can't just delete everything because maybe it's real. So then
Mhm.
in sales, like, how are you going to stand out and get into contact with the people that you actually need to get in contact with? And maybe it's going to go more old school way where it's going back to the events, meeting in person, this networking, cold
Yeah.
calls,
Human
phone
connection.
calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
human connection is a big period. I was just I follow Academy Awards every year for the last 15 years, and there was this one movie that named Train Dreams. That movie
mhm,
was shot 75% of the times natural light. It was all natural, and there was of course there's so much of production has been replaced by AI generated you know uh,
mhm,
directors and all of that, and people are and directors and producer are thinking that hey, well, how we can use AI to produce more, produce better
yeah.
efficient and have more kind of a thrill and all. But on the other side, there's these movies that are like people connect with those movies, and that's how they get nominated for these prestigious awards. And I think from not long, like 2 years from now, people will still crave for authentic videos and founders
Mhm,
sharing their real experiences, sitting on a desk or maybe walking in the morning. These kind of videos would be
yeah.
more of something that we would all crave for apart from
Yeah.
these like Super Bowl AI generated,
Yeah.
advertising and all that. So
Yeah, I agree. So it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. And I think we'll
yeah,
find out soon, because it's moving so fast.
so fast. Perfect. So one advice for any woman's on a leadership role, feeling kind of left behind, because she sees everything like everybody is doing better. Like every the founder once every day, like one moment every day or one day every week. Things like, hey, these folks are doing really good. Like I see the 3,000 likes and comments, and they're like getting viral posts, and they're building workflows on Claude. And Claude is like you go on LinkedIn and in the next like 5 or 6 seconds, you get a post that says like, hey, I've built this workflow in cloud and this is how I automated and increased 50% of my sales or revenue or whatever. So for that woman thinking that she's left behind as a founder starting out a product 2, 3 years in the journey, what is that one advice that you would give?
One, not everything you see online is true. So use your
Mhm.
critical thought on that. And two, don't give up. Because a lot of these people who've built successful businesses, I think we were also sold that dream, that old startup one. You start your business 2 years, you become a millionaire. Your company is a
Mhm.
unicorn, you're growing.
Yeah.
That also is not true. Most of the companies that hit unicorn status were between 7 and 10 years old. So even when it's really hard, even if it feels like you're behind, don't give up because the only way
Mm.
you're actually going to lose is if you stop doing it. And if you keep doing it,
Yeah.
success will come. I mean, and thinking
Yeah.
critically about what you're doing and optimizing where you need to. So don't keep doing
Yeah.
the dumb thing. But if you don't give up, success will follow.
Love it. I was just listening to Mel Robbins just a few months back, and that kind of stuck with me. She was talking about the tagline of Nike, just do it. So it says, you don't have to, perfect it. Just do it. Like
Yeah.
it was like it clicks with me. Like sometimes it's more about doing it than doing it right,
Yeah.
and having a strong perseverance, and make sure you have the consistency,
Mhm.
whether it's branding, content, customers, marketing, whatever. So make sure you're in the game, you're in it all the time with the same level of energy. Sometimes it goes ups and down.
Yeah.
External inflicted sources could be, but always get back in the game. So thank you very much, Paige, for the time. The energy was infectious. Love the kind of notions that you have and school of thought, and strong grip on the growth side of things. And I wish you best and keep following your journey.
Thank you very much. It was great to have the discussion. So looking forward to more in the future.
Absolutely. Likewise. Take good care of yourself. Have a great, wonderful day.
You too.